Chapter 3. Sukritha and Dushkritha. From what has been said, I am convinced that the self is ISWARA and this world is an expression of this self. But generally people say that our birth and death are according to our punya and papa, good and bad deeds. What is the reason for people to say this? What have you understood by punya and papa? Punya or sukritha means doing good work, like being kind and harmless to others and giving gifts of food, cows and other things and performing yaga, homa and other pujas. Papa or dushkritha means doing bad work like harming others and refusing to be charitable, etc. This is how I have understood these expressions. This conception is very wrong. You cannot say that sukritha is good work and dushkritha is bad work. You say that birth and death is due to sukritha and dushkritha. So all beings, from an ant to an elephant, must be under the rule of this sukritha and dushkritha. Of these, can you tell me who are all born of dushkritha? We, human beings, are born of sukritha, good deed, and the rest, of dushkritha, bad deeds. When did we the so-called human beings do sukritha to be born as human beings and the so-called animals like ants etc. do dushkritha to be born as such? In their previous existence. Can you tell me who we were in our previous births and what were the good deeds that we did to be born as human beings and who the ants and other animals were in their previous births and what were the evil deeds done by them to be born as such? No. Then there is no use in believing in things about which one has no experience. You must only believe in things that come into your shruti, hearing, yukti, reason, and anubhavam, experience. All creatures from the tiniest ants to ourselves are of one jiva, life. The apparent difference that we note is the difference in the shape of the body. Moreover, all these shapes are only the reflections and echoes of our energy that flows out from within us. About this I shall speak in detail afterwards. If you say birth and death is due to sukritha and dushkritha, even the persons whom you call kings are subject to these two states. How do we reap the fruits of our sukritha and dushkritha? The benefit of whatever we did in the previous birth we will reap during this birth, and the benefit of whatever we do during this birth, we will reap during the next birth. How? In what manner? Those who do good deeds become Brahmins, rulers and rich men. Those who do evil deeds become poor, sickly and so on. But do not Brahmins, kings and rich men become sickly? They do become sickly. What was the cause and when did they do the dushkritha? In the previous birth. If they have done evil in the previous birth, how can they become Brahmins or kings or rich men? In that case we are also entitled to become like them. According to you, it is only when there is absolutely no sin at all that there is the possibility of becoming the king, Brahmin or a rich man. It is said that they must be the very embodiment of virtue, and if their virtue has reached the highest limit, there is no room in them for any sin at all. When virtue reaches the highest point it becomes God because the highest thing is God. When virtue joins God it become God. Then it become king. The king is of divine origin, that is the reason it is said that the king is the Pratyaksha Devata. The king is the visible God. In some schools we have seen this expression Raja Pratyaksha Devata, king is the visible God, being written and hung on the walls. So the king is understood to be the visible God. Such a king should not have any illness. Moreover, we don't have the illness that mostly the kings are susceptible to. They get consumption, venereal affections, diabetes and paralysis. So they must be persons who have committed greater sins. Can such evil men be born as kings? No. So, from where does the idea of sukritha and dushkritha arise? From mind. If we don't have mind, will we have this idea of God and evil? No. What will happen when nothing evil comes out of the mind? It will be sukritha only. Do you know what sukritha means? It is a state when one unites with God. T. Then where is ISWARA in us? Dis. ISWARA is above us. T. ISWARA is higher than us. Then we have above us our head. ISWARA is in that head. If we want to be in union with ISWARA, there must be one single gati, path. This state is called Punyokristam, supreme virtue. Virtue at its highest point is ISWARA, God. ISWARA is he who has attained the highest virtue. That is why it is said that the king is of divine origin. So those who leave off all the evil deeds arising from within, and become in tune with ISWARA in his head and thereby reach the highest point of virtue become kings. Suppose a person whom you call Chandala would reach this point. Then, what would he be? Dis. He will be a king. T. So, is there a separate creation of beings called kings? Dis. No. T. So, how does a person become a king? Dis. By his own endeavors. T. It is like this. The status of a king is attained when one is able to concentrate all his outflowing energies, prevent them from spreading outside, into one channel, aka Gathi, so as to reach the supreme within him. Those who are now known as kings or rajas, are only persons who adopt the rule of the brute and who following the principle, that might is right, annex and appropriate to themselves all the lands and properties, which are meant to be common in nature, to all living beings. A person with some physical strength who can command some followers, could make himself a so-called king by making others obey and follow him. This is the origin of almost all the so-called zamindars, rajas and maharajas, kings and emperors. For example, during the Mapla rebellion in 1921 the leader, as you know, was one Kunhi Ahmed Haji. He was a known depredator with 2 or more criminal convictions to his credit. He got some followers and so he grew strong. He waged war against the government of India. He was harassing and butchering people. Suppose, if such a man had succeeded, what would have been his designation? Dis. He would have been a Raja, a king. T. So, is this kingship a special creation of God or the direct result of being wicked? Dis. It is the direct result of being wicked. T. You have misunderstood what Sukritha and Dushkritha mean. When Dushkritha, evil, ceases it is Sukritha, good, and vice versa. Suppose a man is laid up with sickness. Do you call him a man of Sukritha or a man of Dushkritha? Dis. A man of Dushkritha, evil deed. T. You cannot say so. A man dies only when his Sukritha ends. That is the same as saying that he dies only when his punya ends. A sick man has still Jiva within him. Sin or evil is that state when we are bereft of the energy of God. Has not a sick man this energy within him? When this energy is gone from us we become something like wooden dolls. This is the real state of papam, sin. Papam is the wasting away of Jiva, life. Jiva is the ISWARA. This ISWARA is the punya, supreme virtue. Our mind is like the region of Chandra, the moon's disk. Mist is water turned into vapor. This vapor is Vikara, the smoke. Just as water evaporates and gets lost in the skies, so also this substance, punya, the life, evaporates away into various forms of thoughts and finally gets exhausted. This exhaustion is death. So, what is it that is exhausted? Dis. Jiva or the punya, which is the essence of life, gets exhausted. T. So we die when this punya gets exhausted. This substance is the real wealth in us. This wealth is the Sukritha, called otherwise Purushartha, wealth of the Purusha or the inner being. This wealth is stored in the Puram, the outer shell. It is the Artham in Sushumna. Puram means Vidu, house. That is the Jadam, body. Sushumna is Hridya, Artham is wealth. It is when this wealth gets exhausted that we die out. This is just like squandering away the money in a box. If we squander away the money from the box, what is it that is left behind? Dis. Only the box. T. In the same way, consider this body as the box. This body contained the wealth called Sukritha. When this wealth is squandered away, what happens? Dis, the death. T, then Sukritha, wealth, exhausted. What remains then? Dis, the empty box, that is the dead body, is left behind. T, when the wealth in the body is spent away, the dead body is either buried or cremated. This is our actual experience. Thus there is a wealth in our body called Sukritha. This Sukritha is also called Vishakritha. Vishakritha means also that which is of knowledge. From this we can see all that is done of knowledge is Sukritha and all that is done of ignorance is Dushkritha. This is the real state of truth. Now what did I say about knowledge before? Dis, it was described as Vayu, the Sakti of Jiva, energy of life. T, what were you told about the nature of this Vayu? Dis, it was said to be the Samirana which is in contact with Brahmarandhra. T, so Sukritha is the concentration of Vayu which is the supreme knowledge in us and Dushkritha is its release and exhaustion. This is the reason for the popular saying that with the extinction of punya, papa sets in. Now, what do you understand by papa, sin? Dis, the destruction of life. T, do you love your life? Dis, yes. I love my life. T, in that case should you die? Dis, I will die out. T, if you love your life, do you think that you will die? Dis, I don't understand that. T, I shall tell you. If you love your life you will not waste your energy outside, but concentrate and store the same, within yourself. Dis, that is so. T, then, how can you die out? Dis, no. I cannot die out. T, not only that. If you love your life, you will not do any harm to others. When you begin to love yourself you will not also waste away your life. You will be within yourself and when you are within yourself you cannot do any harm to any other being. It is like this. Imagine a house with 2 floors, each with 1 room, the upper floor containing many windows. You get into this building, go upstairs and shut the entrance, you look around through the many windows. You can see everything that goes about outside. But if you want to do any harm to any individual outside, unless you actually come out, can you do any harm? Dis, I can't. T, so as long as you are in that high level you are in a position to see everything around you. Likewise since the Jiva in oneself gets down and spreads out, there occurs the chance to do various harms. If that Jiva, without spreading out, gets concentrated within oneself, one would be knowing everything without harming anybody. Then only it can be said that one has loved the Jiva. We are not at all loving our Jiva in this manner. Hence our Jiva gets out and falls upon various things. That is our Jiva goes out through nostrils, mouth etc., and gets destroyed. That state of being destroyed is called papam. That is, Thivayu, the Jiva Sakti, which is our Sukritam existing in us, gets out and exhausts as Dudkritam by Anulom and Prathalomam. It is like this, Anulom is breathing out and Prathalomam is breathing in through the same way. Thus our Jiva gets out and comes in repeatedly and at last gets destroyed from us once for all and we become dead. That is, due to the thoughts of this, that etc., our Jiva, the very essence in us, without knowing itself, becomes Dushkritam goes out and gets destroyed. This state is called papam. So, have you been loving your life hitherto? Dis, no. T, why should we do Sukritam? Dis, so that we may not die. T, when he died what is it that the corpse did not have? Dis, Vayu, the Jiva, life. T, so, what is the principle that gives us our lives? Dis, Vayu, the energy of life. T, this is known as ISWARA, God.